What's that kind of abuse?
Well, we're going for what is it?
What's it called? Not Manischewitz.
Manischewitz. That's a kosher,
alcohol.
Disgusting red wine.
No, I understand. No, that's not it.
Yes, but what you're thinking of is that when they fall in love with their captain.
Stockholm syndrome.
No.
Yes, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
No, but what?
Abuse them long enough, they'll fall in love.
And they'll never leave me.
That's actually his goal. He wants every single person on earth to love him.
No, not true at all.
No, he wants all of us to live within a commune that he oversees.
If he had it his way, he would take over the Keller Williams across the hall,
Big brother.
make it an apartment, make all the employees live over there and work over here.
George Orwell had some really good thoughts. He just didn't implement properly.
Right. Join us as we chat, sip, banter, and wine with the best in the biz. Grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and let's wine together.
Welcome, everybody, to Stop Whining About Real Estate. I'm Emmanuel St, Germain, your host, and I've got my co-host, Sarah Biernbaum, today. We've got a very special guest. We've got Adam Kofsky, who is a loan officer here with our company, Choice Mortgage Group. Woo-woo. And he is the first, yes, big woo-woo. And then he is the first individual that we have brought on to the show from within our company. And there's a very special reason because he has a very unique and special role. So I want him to kind of talk about that. But first, welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you.
I love having you here.
Yeah. You're the two people I speak to the most throughout the day. So on the cameras and microphones, a little change of pace.
Yeah, don't worry.
We're going to be so much nicer to each other now.
Yeah, we're going to pretend like we all like each other.
Well, I will say before we get started that the biggest compliment that I've had since I've been here was when we were at one of the Christmas parties that a realtor came up to me and he said, are you guys all really close? Because it comes off like you guys are really good friends and actually genuinely care about each other. And I was like,
it's part of my paycheck.
Yeah,
paid actors. We're paid actors,
right? No, I was like, well, it's very observant because it's true. We spend a lot of time here in the office together. We spend a lot of time out of the office together. Everything that you're seeing is 100% authentic. So
it is. It's like a family.
Yeah. And see, part of that means that, you have to have some tough skin sometimes because like all families, families sometimes don't get along perfectly well every day, but things are said sometimes to other family members in love.
Ah, that's where we're going with that. I thought you were going more every family has a bully. Got it. Okay.
Sarah, no one's calling you a bully.
It's well, look, the people that care about you most are always going to be the hardest on you. That's for sure.
That is true.
Yeah. So we had a thing so long before you, Adam, when we worked for our prior company, it was very well known that I wouldn't talk to people for like 6 months, and just like you didn't know if they were staying or going, like just
he didn't want to waste his time.
Yeah, I don't have, like that's exactly it. Like there's some people who are just overly friendly in the beginning, and God bless you if that's you, but it's just not me. Like you got to prove yourself that you're part of my team. And so for me, I think actually for you it was very different coming in because with the nature of your relationship with your father, we already knew you come from good stock and good people. So it was really cool to have you. But so let's
glad
start
to be here in both ways, on the pod and at the company.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Well said. Points for Adam. Sarah, you're down one. I'm just kidding.
I take this abuse every week.
Adam, talk to us a little bit about growing up in a family of mortgages. Were you influenced by Dad in order to get into the business? Like, what brought you into it?
So, like you, I started off in sales in the car business. And throughout the years, I met many people in the mortgage business through my dad. I'd meet him in Orlando for the FAMB and, meet people at the trade show. And then we'd always make a vacation out of it and go to Universal. Just made a number of contacts in my late teenage years and my early 20s. So when I started selling cars, everyone that I had connected with started saying, well, why don't you get into the mortgage business? You were made for this business. You are your dad's clone. This is what you should do. So it was a lot of outside pressure. And then I think when I was ready to make the jump, obviously I utilized some contacts that I met from over the years and the relationship with my dad to, make that switch. I think as far as being influenced that, you guys get to see me on the phone every day. I think that if you were to put a video of my dad on the phone next to a video of me on the phone, that it would look eerily similar.
Really?
When I started in the business, I just was like, okay, I know how to do this. I watched my dad do this for 20 years. And I think that some of the mannerisms and expressions and way that I talk on the phone, could be very, very similar to him. So I think that, my dad absolutely played a very large role, and he's someone that I continue to lean on to this day. He's been in the business for 40 years last week.
Wow.
Wow, very cool. So talk to us a little bit about so one of the things you talked about was the transition and the sales. What I loved about the car industry for me was that it really, really taught me a very systematic approach to selling and to have an actual process. And then from there, you can start to play with the psychology and have different, and learn how to kind of use that to your advantage,
right,
and to make sure that you're solving problems, et cetera. But what is it about what do you think is the major difference from selling a car versus selling a mortgage? And do you think we're making a mistake by not going after more car salespeople to convert them into loan officers?
You might be onto something there. I mean, that we're not the only ones. I mean, there's plenty of people that have made the jump. I think that car salespeople come from a more salesy background than people who start off right into mortgages. There's a lot more obstacles, I think, that you have to jump through as far as the sales piece, because you're selling a tangible product. You're selling a product where you need the person to choose that product. And then they also have, like we see in our business, a lot of competition that can give them the same thing. Somebody who's looking at
Do you think it's harder to sell a car than as a mortgage?
I think it's more salesy, at least for my approach, which we can get into here in a little bit. It's a little more salesy because you're selling a physical product. So somebody who you're discussing sales with in cars, you're selling not only against the other dealerships that sell the same car, but you're also selling, is this person going to choose my Toyota Camry over that Honda Accord? They have to like your product and your numbers, where, here we have different financing options, but there's not that physical approach to where you have to connect your buyer with that, tangible product that you're selling. They find the real estate first and they kind of have that flexibility, but I think that a car is a little different from that standpoint.
I think that the piece that I was thinking in my mind is that when an individual is introduced to you that are interested in buying, there's a lot of other factors that are out of our control. Whereas when I worked on a car dealership and you came onto the car dealership, my ability to sell you a product that I had was first of all, don't go work at a dealership where you don't have good inventory, any product to sell. Like that's going to be difficult anywhere you are in any industry. But assuming that you have a product that you can stand behind, it gives me the opportunity, for me to be able to sell and close right then and there. The product is going, we used to do what's called a FBI, feature benefit impact. And again, that's why I'm saying there was a whole process that, we would go through and to make sure that we were getting the individual. We had all the decision makers there. The vehicle that we just test drove was the right vehicle. It was the right color. And there was no, you overcome any obstacles, overcome any excuses, and it trains your mind later on as you get into mortgages, because mortgages is a more lucrative potential, I would say, than car sales. And what I found was that by having gone through that process, my brain goes through the process the same way. So as I'm having a conversation with someone, I welcome the no's. I welcome the challenges. It's the person who says nothing, that you're discussing with. That's when it's really difficult to read them and to gauge and figure out, like, I can't solve your problem if I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I think that for us, after we do a pre-approval, right, somebody goes out and finds the house. Then they come back to us with terms that they want to offer on the house and the house already picked out. When you're in the car business, you can be shopped on the same product elsewhere and get a different product or different numbers on the same product from a different dealership. Whereas in our business, the numbers are kind of already catered to that one specific thing. So you can kind of like the numbers are the numbers on that house, and you're already presented with what they're going to pay for it, as that actual purchase price and bottom line is actually negotiated on the car, where they're bringing that to us in mortgages. I think that's kind of where I think that
some more variables
difference comes from, because
You just got to focus on the four square of real estate.
Oh, Jesus.
so
Which,
would you care to tell us more about that?
Well, I mean, as the inventor of the four square of real estate, I could tell you all about it, but that's for a different conversation. Sarah, tell us a little bit about your experiences working with Adam, and what you think he brings that's unique, and then part of your relationship. And again, for those of you who don't know what an inside loan officer, it's simply an individual who is not asked to go out and create new relationships for himself. So his job is to essentially, where individuals like Sarah create relationships with realtors, with builders, or myself, or any of us, we can put through our inside loan officer team when we have other loan officers referring business, part-time loan officers referring business. So it is an internal mechanism in order to create loans without having to go get it. Talk about your experience.
So I remember when Adam first started with us, and he was not an inside LO yet. He was still an outside LO. And I remember hearing him on the phone in the office, and I was like, we need to keep this guy. We need to keep him active and selling and the pipeline busy. Adam had recently moved from Pennsylvania and, didn't have a huge book of business down here. And I think that's where we decided to kind of bring him in as an inside LO, and he got matched with me. And so he's my guy. He's my go-to. So I do the relationship building and all the stuff on the outside, and he does the loans, and he's in the financials, and he does the technical part, I guess, if you want to call it that. We work really well together because I think we, in a short amount of time, how long have you been in the inside LO position?
Since I think it's going to be a year this coming month,
Okay.
a year in June.
So in a year, we've worked together so closely every day, all day, the same relationships, the same agents, the same clients, that we had to very quickly kind of knock out the things that were either going to be a deal killer or a breaker for him relationship-wise, and the same for me, because we wouldn't be able to work side by side the way that we do.
Give us a little example there.
Well,
are we talking about...
I think it's just the way that we work in a personality thing. Like, I very quickly realized that Adam is a very passionate person. He is very emotional in a good, great, wonderful way. But when he's upset about something, like, he wears it on his shoulder. He wears it
Absolutely
on his face. I do too, but we're different in that. In a little bit, we do it differently. And I realized that if I was going to work with him and get him to be in a place where he trusts me and respect me and vice versa, I needed to understand how to work with him in a way that wasn't going to push him over the edge, wasn't going to send him, flying into a tangent, and not that he ever would, but I needed to understand how his brain works and how his heart works, because they work very much together. And when Adam is bothered by something, it affects everything. So I think we had to kind of knock out a bunch of stuff fast to get to a place where our day-to-day is comfortable. And we still have moments where, like, I will misunderstand something, or he does, or there's a miscommunication or something, and we come to it really fast. But we're able to kind of bounce off each other really well. And I know when I need something, I can go to him. And I think he feels the same way for me. I've loved having him as an inside loan officer. I don't touch the loans. So my job is not to know the ins and outs of the loans, but if I have a question, if an agent has a question, and if I need something, I know that I can go to him and he's got my back right away. And I think it's this mutual feeling of, he's got me, I've got him, we're in this together. Let's do this. We're Team Kofsbaum, and let's handle it together. And it works.
No, there's no saint in front of the Kofsbaum, right?
There is not.
That was just a very temporary thing.
There is not. It's just Kofsbaum.
So would you say our working relationship is the same way?
No.
What do you mean? Am I more emotional than Adam? Is that what it is?
I think that we're kind of the
Lack
opposite
thereof.
in that sense.
No.
I think that
not a lack.
It's just different. It's different.
It's showing.
Yeah. No, you're definitely more. You're more systemic and more of a machine, and more you go down your day, where, I think that for me, I kind of, I think that my personality, the pros that allow me to be very welcoming on the phone and have that, more I guess,
Everybody that you work with, they think of you as their buddy.
right, exactly.
After the first conversation, you're their buddy.
It's more of a powwow, but what comes with that, like very lightheartedness and fun, it's because, I do get emotionally invested in my clients and my referral partners, and it's not always to my benefit. So, when things are going really well, I feel this extreme high and this extreme happiness for them. When they get their keys or, they get their clear to close, these are moments that I actually like really cherish and really appreciate. But when, things, start going sideways for them, if it's, an inspection issue or whatever it might be, or they're pre-approved and then they lose their job and they have to put their house hunting on hold. Those are things that I really connect with and I really feel for them. And it does bother me.
I get it. You got highs and lows, and I'm Steady Eddie.
I think we got a new nickname for him.
Steady Eddie.
I mean, let's call it for what it is. You don't there's nothing wrong with anybody. Anybody is supposed to be who they are, but I don't think you would want a leader who has extreme highs and lows. No. I think that would be very hard to gauge.
Yeah.
And know where the company's going and what we're working on, things like that.
I also think from a working for you standpoint, like Adam and I work together and we work together, but it's different. At the end of the day, you write my paycheck. I'm employed by this company, which is yours.
I think we do direct deposit, but yes.
But I think also...
Wait, we have direct deposit?
You haven't been taking advantage
We're
of that?
still holding on to that for you. No, but I think you're right. I think if you had more of this like emotional kind of side to you, it would be hard to gauge. And every day I know for me, because I feed off of people's emotions, which is a benefit to me because I'm able to connect really well with people. But then also I feel everything all the time and it can be draining. But if that was your way of doing things, because of how closely I work with you in a different way that you and I work together, I would come in every day going, let me spend the first 2 hours gauging how he is today so I can kind of get my path together of how I'm going to be today. And that would be tough. So Steady Eddie is the way to be for you.
Steady Eddie, I think, is a better way. I will say, I do know one of my knocks is I don't tell people they're doing a good job enough. And we've had this conversation off air before. To me, working, I love what I do, and hard work is not something that, I believe deserves a pat on the back. It's what you're supposed to do. That's normal, and that's where I come from. And it comes, I've always been a leader, a captain in every sports team, and I don't need the crazy riveting speech. Just watch what I do, hop on my back, let's go. Watch that I'm willing to run through a wall for any one of you, whether I say it or not. And I think that, it obviously, so, I mean, I can take the opportunity to say you guys are both doing a great job, and I love your friendship, and I love working with you guys. But I think that it's really about understanding one another and who we are. And I think that as we grow, I know that I need to do a better job complimenting people, saying that to do, but it's something that's not natural for me. It doesn't mean that I don't think it. It's just like some people don't delve into their emotions, right? Some people are much, colder. Doesn't mean that they're not emotional. And some people are way too emotional. They're all over the place. And the slightest little thing bothers them. And next thing you know, they can't work for 2 hours.
Have we ever had any of those?
We have everything. I mean, we have like 50 people in our company. So like it's enough that you're going to have some drama. And luckily for me, they all go to Sarah. So I don't, because it is what it is. I'm a problem solver, and that Steady Eddie works really well with coming up with solutions. But the moments where I could be a better leader, it's hard for me to flip my brain into that. It wouldn't be my authentic self if I was walking around congratulating and patting everyone on the back. I understand that's a form of leadership. I understand that's a very good form of leadership, but it has to be true to yourself, and it just isn't how I am. Maybe in 5 years, maybe when I get a little older, who knows? When I reach your age, Sarah.
When you go nice and gray.
No, but I there's something to be said. Like, have you ever seen, all right, here, I say this all the time. You ever seen like older men when
They
they
cry
give
a lot.
speeches, they cry a lot.
They always cry.
But we never do. We never do until a certain point in life. And it's that point where maybe the finale is near or it's on the horizon or you see it. And all of a sudden it's cool to be like in touch with your emotions because you got gray hair. Well, luckily I don't have gray hair.
We're gonna
I'm
wait
not
for
crying
you.
anytime soon.
We're going to wait.
Is that L'Oreal commercial coming out soon or?
It's, what is it, hair for men or I don't know, hair club? I don't even know what those stuff is, but.
I
agree. I think that you wear a lot of different hats, and I think that what we experience all the time, that when we talk about logging calls and putting in notes, is that I think that the most difficult part of our business is being able to turn the switch on and off, from being in that sales mode to being in that data entry mode to being in that file review mode, and then in your position you obviously have more responsibilities on top of being a standard LO, to where you're wearing all these different hats. So then to have time to add another hat or focus on the emotions rather than just getting stuff done and leading by example, I think that's just yet another switch. And we're already in an industry where it's extremely hard to change modes as you go through the day. It's why the time blocking is so important. And that I'm a big proponent of the time blocking.
Add in the fact that the last 2 years we've been in a housing recession, and there's pressure on all of us to perform and to do well, to make sure that we succeed, stay alive, get to that next level. And I think that, like they say in sports, so Sarah, we're going to give a sports analogy.
Is this a Tom Brady reference?
It's not a Tom Brady, but as they say, any locker room, winning cures all problems.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It's the same thing. I think in any industry, like we went from making so much money to having the rug pulled out from us.
Yeah, the faucet shut off overnight. Yeah.
Literally 50% decline in the market. And so when you do that, it creates a different kind of stress. And I know that you were with us, but you weren't in a role where you were making money like that yet.
Sure wasn't.
Soon enough, hang in there. And
I just got in there right at the recession start.
Yes, well, but that's really the great
Sarah
opportunity.
ruined everything.
I was like, I am here for the challenge. Screw this money making. Make it rain. I'm going to wait until things come to a halt.
It's perfect because you'll first of all, you'll appreciate it so much more, like anything. Nobody wants to be I'm sure people want to be handed, but in terms of being respected.
No, it's going to feel good.
Yes. In terms of you respecting yourself, it feels so much better knowing you started from the most difficult time to start and then you succeed. My point was that it makes it really, really easy for leadership to thank and to be positive and to be happy and to do all of that stuff, to do all the happy hours when everybody is rolling in it. And
I think that goes well beyond
doing the
too.
amount of work.
It goes for everyone.
Any industry.
It goes for everyone here too. When you're making money, you're happier. Like, I don't know if you've realized the Phillies are in first place. And the reason I say that is that I watched these interviews like that they have after the game, and like the other night I saw Nick Castellanos. He's like, oh, and this team's having so much fun. It's like,
you're like, yeah,
you guys have the best record in the league. Of course you're having fun.
No, I get it. It's May,
that's what
and
I'm
right
saying,
now some of us are still watching basketball because our teams are in the finals.
Yeah, I know. I can't
You've got
believe I have to
hockey.
root for Dallas.
We do. I'm rooting. So I have always said I root Boston everything because that's where I grew up, an hour northeast of Boston. But I will always cheer and support South Florida teams
Second.
as long as they're not playing my team. So, for example, they beat the Bruins. They're not my team. Let's go Panthers. Nice win last night in overtime.
I know there was a lot of people we knew at that game.
I root for the Flyers and anyone who plays the Rangers, so I'm on board.
There you go. That's like
It's
me
just
and
like,
the
don't
Yankees.
you hate anybody or you want to root for anybody that plays Cowboys too?
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll root for Dallas against the Celtics.
What? Because of him?
He's just hating right now. All right, let's talk about back to mortgage stuff because that's so exciting, and that's what the audience really wants to hear. Hold on, I think we've got a live call coming in.
Can you talk to me
Sarah,
about...
the phone is buzzing like crazy. The amount of calls, we just can't. I think the phone system's
They
getting
want to know
shut
about
down.
all of our products.
So, but yes, let's not stay away from product. That's so boring. But talk about the inside loan officer role. You've had both roles. You've had what we call a retail loan officer, which would be like, your traditional standard loan officer role. And then this is your first time doing the inside loan officer role, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So talk about the transition. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Don't forget your reviews coming up. Just kidding.
Well,
I'm just teasing.
It was so well played.
Well, look, I think that it's obvious that I enjoy it because I think you and I have been very transparent that, look, if at any point that had to change, I think that we know that from my track record that I can do both. So I'm obviously in the role, not only because you guys want me in the role, but because I truly want to be in the role as well.
It's me.
I enjoy working with Sarah every day. I do. It's it's a unique experience. It's not something
pay him more for that, by the way. It's part of his contract. He's like, if I got to work with that one.
Yeah. I demanded extra money. So look, I think that what's good about it is I do enjoy coming to the office and being able to stay in the office and have my focus on the customers. And not have that need for when I moved out here to, especially in this Florida traffic, be spending, half my day driving to this event and schmoozing this person and doing that. Although occasionally I do really enjoy going out to the networking events.
So what I do all day, every day.
That's the half of the role that Sarah does. But, it's a role that Sarah was made for. She's naturally really, really good at that piece where as social as I am, I'm very social once I get to know somebody a little bit or have that introduction. For me to be walking into a room every day, people aren't as drawn to me as they are to Sarah. I have to try to sneak my way into the conversation a little bit.
You guys look so similar. I'm surprised.
So look, I like the fact that there's structure, that my job's in the office, that I'm not always on the go, that I get to work with more buyers because of it. Obviously when I moved down here and kind of relocated and started rebuilding the business, it was kind of a perfect fit for us because, I was somebody with a lot of experience who was restarting my business and needed access to immediate business if it was on the table. And you guys had business coming in to where you needed somebody with experience who had the capacity to be able to take on these clients. So I think that we realized very quick that it was a really good match. And I enjoyed the fact that, that climb being back and getting a presence in this market wasn't something that, I necessarily had to, scratch and claw for, but it was also something that took a lot of work in other areas. The loan process with a buyer is something obviously that I've done for now the last 12 years. But there's different challenges that come with being the inside loan officer. I think that when you're an outside loan officer, you view an inside loan officer as someone who, they're just handed all their deals, right? They just walk in and they get handed. But what you don't realize is that you're accountable to so much more than yourself. When you're an outside loan officer, you're responsible for yourself, your business, your agents, your clients. And if you make that person upset or you make a mistake or you don't deliver to 100% of your capabilities, ultimately, it's on you. In my role, although I don't have to go out and hunt and don't have to go to these networking events, and Sarah does a lot of the hard work, for me on that other end, you're accountable to much more than just yourself. And when you come to work every day and when you need to deliver, you need to keep more than just yourself in mind, and you need to, be able to answer to more than just yourself, and because. Sarah has relationships with other people, and when I, don't deliver to 100%, or in the case that I wouldn't, then it's not just me that has to answer for it.
So I think that is that a new viewpoint that you've thought of before, Sarah?
We've had this conversation.
You have, okay.
Yeah.
So that because I think it's a part that is really nice to hear, is that, and it's true. As a loan officer, typically you are out on your own, and you've got no one to share your success with and no one to share your losses with other than yourself. But, in his role, there's a greater pressure. He's sitting behind Tom Brady, of mortgages. And
can we roast you like he just got roasted too?
Sure, I don't have an ex-wife, so it's gonna be nice and easy.
I did get told today that I look like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh wow. No, but I think that's I think it is. I think it's a really good point to talk about there is, and I guess I never really think of it that way. Maybe you guys talk about it, but the additional pressure of needing to perform for multiple people the accountability. Now, that being said, I think that's an even greater opportunity because people really it's a fast way to be the man, right? It's a fast way to get recognition, to get the pat on the back. Hey, we just did this. Hey, we just did that. So I think it's an interesting role. I definitely think it's a role we're going to have more of.
Yeah.
And I think that recruiting loan officers, it's so competitive right now. They don't know. And here's the problem. All recruiters are liars, no offense, but they just are. So they are. Everyone talks about how great the game is and what someone else, they always want to make their company sound amazing. And then you get there and they're just not honest because honesty doesn't always sell the best way to other salespeople. Sometimes you have to, the way that it works is they have to hear what they want to hear. So for me, I love the idea of hiring more inside loan officers. I love the idea of hiring, people talented like Sarah, but maybe a little bit better. And then but hiring a team underneath Sarah that she can grow across the country and start minions. And start to mold and to create. I think it's an easier controllable period.
Pause real quick, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
There's power.
Well, then the lights would be off.
What was this thing that went psh?
That was the paper, the schedule.
That's why we need that email address.
Yeah, I didn't even know what that was. I'm like, what's that noise?
What, like the conference room?
What I was trying to tell you is that when you do that, it's loud.
Oh, okay.
And you kept, every time you move here, every time you put your hands back, you were doing this.
I thought you were trying to hold his hand.
No, it was no.
I thought you were telling me, shut up, I'm ready to talk.
No. Move your hands around all you want.
Oh.
It's when you do that, it's really loud. These things are really.
All right.
That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
No, say whatever you want.
I thought you were like, I'm ready to talk.
No. There's no holds barred on this. That's what's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
So this whole time we've just been filming Adam?
No, it just happened.
This is beautiful.
We're watching on the monitor.
I did just want to be a headset kind of crew. Like not camera'd.
Well, you're better behind the camera. I get it.
Right.
The camera's more made for
you and your soon-to-be gray hair.
For Clark Kent over here.
Clark Kent, Tom Brady. All self-proclaimed.
I'm sure there's somebody out there who's called it.
The Michael Jordan of mortgages.
Oh, my God.
He is the GOAT.
Yeah.
He is. Fact.
I don't know.
Yes, he is.
What?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah, it's debatable.
I gotta go grab my phone. Well, good news. We got at least almost a half hour or so.
No, I think we did more than that.
33 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we have like 2 more topics that me and him went over that we want to talk about, but not a whole lot. What time is it?
4:45. The clock I had higher. I don't know what happened to it.
Once again, 20446. Okay.
Are we back in action? Now he's Eminem. The whitest Eminem you've ever seen.
Did they even make white M&Ms?
Oh, I meant the rapper.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Oh.
Like, in general.
I think they do.
I think they do for like holidays.
Yeah,
like
Halloween or something, or Christmas.
no, but I
All
think
right, so
also
while
when
we took a break, back to important stuff. What do we want to do? What do we want to? Anything you want to get out?
I think that, I wanted to continue with where we were right there because I wanted to talk about where the market is in recruiting. I wanted to touch a little bit on that.
oh yeah, recruiters are liars is the last thing you
not
said.
just that, but about how it's a heavily recruiting market right now, and then also
I'm going to chime in and say it sure is. Everybody's
maybe touch
after
on,
me.
we wanted to touch on a little bit because of some of my work history about some of the
I am
companies,
likable.
not by name, that I've worked for, right? That's where we
Okay.
wanted to touch.
All right. So what's the last thing you got? Where do you want us to pick up?
Pick up where he was talking about his role, and then you were literally talking about your role in the company and
So do you want me to make a joke about the phones or like
make a joke. Yeah, make a joke, and then we can transition.
we can back them in? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, wait. So the part where I'm describing,
The
I'm trying to-
accountability and how it's like.
okay, so we're redoing that part, or we're done after that
We're
part?
done after that part.
Okay, so we just
Wanna
need
ask
to pick
you-
up from there.
Okay. So what do you want? Sarah, Sarah never talks. What do you ask? Tell Sarah to ask you a question. You know,
What question do you want me to ask you?
Well, I think that I want to go back to,
The market,
I want to get back to what you were talking about recruiting in this market and that stuff. So
Do you want me to ask
we
you?
talk
if
about
it's-
how I think you were talking about how you wanted to expand
okay.
like the inside LO situation.
Okay.
So then maybe I take that. We should expand the inside LO situation and go from there.
Well, yeah. So what I was talking about is for you to put business development people underneath you
Yeah.
and to grow that.
Yeah.
And we grow the inside loan officer role from there.
And then you said recruiters are liars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So where are we kicking off?
Whatever you want to ask.
Okay.
Not that hard.
I know I'm thinking, but I'm trying to be strategic about my thinking.
Can you explain what an inside loan officer is?
Like the day to day.
For someone like me, I have no idea, like, what the inside versus a regular agent, like, regular.
Gotcha.
So I thought I did that, but it just means just like a regular loan officer, but they don't go out and get business.
Yeah.
So she brings business by creating relationships, and so like we basically sit there and the contract comes in. You know, we deal with a client.
Yeah.
But you were referred. He doesn't have to go meet the realtor that referred you to us.
I build the relationships, and when the business starts coming in, he
I
takes
handle the
care
client.
of the buyer and the loan.
That's awesome.
So maybe just talk about our process and what we're looking at.
Well, I can play off his accountability because I can go back to the conversation that he and I had about that
Yeah.
and then go from there.
Sounds good.
You hate it.
No, I have no clue what you're going to say.
Well, so why don't we pick up where I ask you how you see that on your side of things of
Got it.
dealing with an inside loan officer.
We can do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Just tell me when we're rolling. We're good? All right. And I'm sure that you experience the same things that I deal with from the other side where you're out there setting expectations and establishing those relationships. If you want to elaborate a little more on your side of things and the pressures that come on your side.
Yeah, totally. I think just going back to the piece where you feel accountable for more people than yourself, when I realized that was, a part of your job, I was like, that makes total sense. I feel like accountable for the agents that I'm promising this relationship, the skills, and all the stuff that we can do here. Also, in some of our partnerships, there's a broker owner that I have to be, the one that's going to answer to them. So when I felt you're kind of, and I think it wasn't the accountability of disappointing me, it was organizing your day and just keeping yourself moving and organized in a way that an outside LO may not do because it's just them, and then having different checkpoints.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's kind of the same thing. I have a checkpoint with you. I have a checkpoint with him. I have a checkpoint with our broker owners and our partners and the agents. So I think, we're both, and I think that's why we work really well together, is because we're both in this together. And I think that's the biggest difference between an inside and outside LO. Technically, you're an outside LO when you are working on the loans, and it's your world, your clients, your agent.
It's definitely unique. I mean, you've got, both of you can understand from each other's perspectives where the pressure is. If you are getting on Adam about doing something, it's he understands it's not you going, just coming up with this on your own. Someone else is giving you pressure, therefore you're going to him, and vice versa. You know, like you have to understand that he's getting pressure. He's already getting whatever phone call you just got from the agent. He also got that phone call from the listing agent, the buying agent, the buyer. So it definitely works well that you guys are both communicative and able to go over that. You know, what we don't want to do in for any relation, this is any relationship, not just work, but you don't want to get angry at each other, hold stuff in. You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be able to speak to each other as adults. You've got to be able to work together, share your feelings, and then you work it out. And that's why there's a couch in Sarah's office.
That's where everybody comes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, I think that, you know, Sarah and I have been very good at getting our feelings out on the table when we reach a level of frustration, because she's out there promising things that ultimately I need to deliver on a lot of times, right? So you know, who knows what she's saying sometimes.
All
you know,
the things.
you can just call Adam twice if his phone's on Do Not Disturb, and he will answer
It'll
at 2
push
a.m. Right? So it's, you know, that's the difficult part, is that the expectations are not always set by you, and you have to, you know, work hand in hand with the person who's setting them, because those expectations, you know, are what you need to follow through on and deliver on. So if you're not communicating, you know, where your day's at, where your week's at, you know, where your head's at in general, then you're not going to be able to deliver on the expectations if you're not completely in line with what's going on. And ultimately, when you work with someone that close, you know, if you're not communicating, frustrations can happen easily. I mean, rarely do Sarah and I ever not see eye to eye on certain things, but there's been a couple times where we've just taken a walk over to the cafe, gotten a Celsius, talked it out in 5 minutes, and we come back in here and do our jobs. And I think that we've handled that very well as a team.
I agree.
And to add to the pressure to that, though, because you and I work together as well, and there are transactions, so there's a combination of working with the owner, right? Working with someone who, and then all of a sudden working with a loan officer, and we're both loan officers, so we run that same, you know, we do the exact same thing, but it is a little bit different. You know, like it's not that Adam's not caring, but it's always going to be a little different when it's yours. Your kid, you're going to treat differently than someone else's kid, right?
Your kid. And
it just is what it is. So, you know, but that puts pressure on him if you think about it. You know, you've got to live in my shadows all the time, Bubba.
I think that I'm a little bigger than your shadow, so it's I'm sneaking out from behind it a little bit. But no, look, and I think that that's also another thing, is it's also something that you have to look at is, you know, we're working in different levels with you who you do own the company, but you also operate in a role that's very similar to ours. So I think that there's also, you know, a challenge that comes on Sarah's side where, you know, we obviously both work with her very closely in her role. And as much as me and her need to work hand in hand, that there is a component where she does work for you and does work for the company, where, you know, that goes into her prioritizing what she does and trying to deliver as best as possible.
I think we've tried, though, through our core values to really try and simplify the process and where my decision making comes from.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, for us and for anybody, we'll put a picture of our core values in the show notes. But it's really, you know, it's the client experience, the referral partner experience, and our employee experience. And that's where every decision is made. Nothing is personal. It's all about trying to make sure that our culture and our wow effect in that Venn diagram is really where everything is. So for me, although yes, when I do loans as a loan officer. The way that it works is my loans don't take precedent over yours. They don't take precedence over anyone else. I don't change my system to be any different than anyone else's. And I do that for several different reasons. Number one, I'm in the trenches with you. Yeah. The difference is the second I see something I don't like, it gets changed. And if it's not something I don't like in terms of me as an individual, it's how did this, whatever the issue is, whatever the mistake was, the lack of communication, anything that can happen through a loan, and which is a lot of different things. how did this impact the client experience? That impact affected the referral partner experience, which then led to the employee experience. And like, I'll give you an example. I forget what the mistake was or whatever it was. It doesn't really matter. But I used that particular mistake or lack of communication or misunderstanding, whatever it was. And I said, hey, I just want you to understand. Right. And it's not to point of it doesn't matter. Like, you make mistakes, she makes mistakes. I made a mistake in 1991, but I'm just kidding. I make mistakes every day. We all make mistakes. That
was the year I was born, by the way, but you guys probably remember it better than me.
Oh my God.
Yes. So he's not my son. Let that
you guys
be
just keep walking right into these.
So, but my point is that, like, through that, I used whatever it was and said, look, I just need you to understand, because as a salesperson, I feel like we see it. You're in sales too. We see it. I don't feel that ops always sees how one action created a whole domino effect between all these other parties.
Yes.
And so my purpose for doing that was just to say, hey, I totally understand there's a miscommunication, but I want you to understand the power of what that does.
Yeah.
Here's what the client happened. Now the client got nervous and scared. So the client, because they got nervous and scared or whatever happened, they called their real estate agent. The real estate agent now has to, instead of working on their next transaction, has to babysit. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden,
has to play therapist, calm down the client. Yeah.
And because of that, what do they do?
Nothing, right?
And because of that, what do? They call us.
Yep.
So now they call the loan officer. So now the loan officer has to.
We have to take calm down the agent. Then we got to call the client.
Therapist
we got to play therapist to them as well.
Right.
Yep.
So this whole domino effect all over something simple. And simply to say, hey, like, what you do is really, really important, and which is why I'm so proud of the ops team that we have, because they understand that.
Yeah.
They're not perfect. They never will be, just like we'll never be perfect.
It can be over something so simple like, when you're in ops, you want everything to be so tight, and you want it to be presented, so perfectly. When you go back to underwriting to get your approval, there's sometimes where, like, I've seen an email go out where we're asking for 3 things that are just simple things that you can go online and get in 5 minutes. But it's just presented in so much detail that when you look at the text, when you bring up the email, that, like, if certain personalities, like, oh my God, they're asking for so much, but you can go on your online banking and pull it all out in 3 minutes. So sometimes, to what you were saying, from a sales perspective, we see that where, we like to simplify things, make the client experience very simple, but from an ops perspective, they want to make sure they're as detailed as possible so they don't miss anything. And that's kind of where we need to set our expectations properly.
Well, it's really, really hard to have both. It's really hard to understand and to be the structure, the detailedness, the organization, the things that most salespeople lack is exactly what ops has.
Are you going to go into the fact that you're all for?
This isn't about me.
I know, but you happen to be.
I did want to chime in and say...
all right. If you want to pat me on the back, go ahead, sir. I certainly wasn't going to.
I'm going to pat you on the back a little bit right here, because this is what I was going to say real quick, is that the 2 things, and I've worked for, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit, working for we're gonna wrap
almost
up.
Off the clock here,
that's
pal.
fine.
Come on.
I'm having a good time.
I got places to be.
None of us clock in here.
Yeah. So, whatchamacallit is, the 2 things that I'll say that's very refreshing about working, here and working for you is that, Sarah's very interested. She's like, what in the world is he gonna say now? And I've worked for.
He's going to say something
for small brokerages. I've worked for big banks. I've worked for mid-sized companies, direct lenders. Is that, out of everyone I worked for, you always say there's nothing I'll ask you to do that I wouldn't do myself, and I think that you do prove that on a day-to-day basis, and that's a very, very big deal. It actually absolutely goes noticed. It's actually frustrating to a point, because it makes it so you can't really have excuses for not doing certain things.
Very frustrating.
But it is something that's noticed, and it is something that's certainly appreciated. When you speak to being the owner and a loan officer, I think that speaks volumes to how you view things. And I remember probably about 6 months ago when I was here, I was trying to get a certain file worked on, And the response I got from somebody was, well, I have 3 of Emmanuel's files that I have to work on. And I said to them, I said, well, I don't care who the loan officer is. Like, we need to do it in order of importance and how, what our deadlines are. And they came to you and told you that I said that, and they thought that you were going to say, no, work on my deals first. And you looked at them and said, he's right. You need to work on them in the order of deadline and importance. And, those 2 things combined are, as much as, like you said, we're a family, that's what always ties everything together and makes me happy to work here. And sorry for banging on the chair again.
All good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being part of the family. We're happy to have you here.
I'm really happy to have you.
All right. One last question that I do want to discuss. There are several different types of companies. Your prior experience coming to here, we're working for very large IMBs, which is an independent mortgage banker, is what we're called. Talk to the audience in general about, I guess, both from a client experience and then also from, let's use our core values: client experience, referral partner experience, employee experience. What's better, what's not, things like
Plus
that.
minuses.
Sure, pros and cons. Everything has pros and cons. We're not perfect, gang, so I don't pretend that we are.
I think that also the market has a lot to do with some of the pros and cons. I'll preface it by saying that, right now people are like, oh, we have 48-hour turn times. Well, right now everyone does. When the market's not super jam-packed and everybody's not at their full capacity, it's easy to deliver on certain things. Where you really find out what a company's made of is when they're closer to capacity and business is flowing in and everybody's busy and you see who's organized and who's well put together. I mean, when you're at a third capacity of what your company can do and things are slow, just like a restaurant that's a third full, you're going to get a lot better service. When you go to a restaurant that every table's full, are you still getting that level of service? Do they have the systems to provide for you? I think that, at some of the bigger companies, big banks that I've worked for, they have a lot of red tape. It's very much more corporate. Some of their systems tend to be dated because they have their own systems. They don't outsource a lot. So sometimes the technology doesn't always keep up with the times. I know that's something that we really value here is, being technology friendly, having automated follow-up systems,
On-site IT is the best.
I mean, look, you kind of get the best of the best of both worlds. It took me a second there. The best of both worlds with that. Where even uploading documents into our portal is very easy, and there's certain maneuverability that we have that some of the big banks don't have the flexibility. They have they're set and they're stuck there, and it takes them a big investment of time and money to move on from that. Then some of the independent brokers that are on their operate as a smaller shop that don't necessarily have the on-site resources that we have because they're on the other end of things. They're at the mercy of the other companies that they're working with and placing their loans with, and they're, essentially going to get treated on the level of production that they provide. And, just like, here we have, I always, when I'm on a sales call, I always make sure that I say, we have in-house underwriting. We have in-office underwriting. In-house underwriting, I had that when I worked for a large bank, but my in-house underwriter was 1,000 miles away at a processing center for that big bank. Here, I'm on the phone today. I'm talking to somebody who's like, well, how quick can you turn this around? And I say, I am looking in my underwriter's office right now. Behind me, my CEO is meeting with our processing manager. So I said, that's how, quick we can move things along, is that, we're big enough to where we have the on-site and in-company resources, but also small enough to where we're just not so bogged down by these heavy investments we've made in our own infrastructure, and we have the ability to adapt. So that's kind of what my experiences are from being at a smaller place, a bigger place, and then ultimately here.
Well put. There'll be some nuggets we can use on social media there for recruiting.
Yeah. So
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Get your check.
Right.
Okay, you can pay him now.
Just one thing that I want to add to that. I don't come from other banks. This is the first mortgage company I've ever worked for. But I've worked for big, huge companies. And the one thing that I noticed about here, probably one of the first things, was if there was a problem with something, a system, a process, the way that we did things, the answer was never, this is just how we've always done it, which you get a lot at big corporate structures. And I get why there's a million layers, and to pass anything, I get it.
Yo, I'll solve it.
Right.
Check out the hook while my DJ revolves. Is that where we're going?
Ice,
Okay.
Thank you for
baby.
picking up where I was putting down.
But here, and we've always kind of been like this, if something's not working, and this is why our weekly meetings are so important, I think, is that we have an issue in something on the ops side or a sales side or wherever, and it's, all right, let's tackle this. How does this make sense? How do we fix this? How does it work for all three of the people that are really important, the referral, the client, and the team person? And I think that's super impactful, being able to work for a company that operates large enough to handle business, large enough to scale, large enough to do all of the big things, but then small enough in a sense to where that kind of stuff matters. As a salesperson, when you work for a huge company, the people up at the top that are making the decisions of what the salespeople need to do have never been in sales for the most part and don't understand what it's like to be the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And they'll pass these things where you're like, this would never actually work in real life. And because everybody that's here, that's a department head or the CEO who's in the trenches with you, understand what the day-to-day is like, we can talk about that and solve it and fix it to where it makes sense for everybody involved. And so it's better moving forward. It's not just, well, that's just how we've always done it, so that's the way that it is.
It reminds me of going all the way back to the car business, where they would bring in some of these like outside trainers to give like a presentation on like sales to all the salespeople at the dealership. And then the person starts talking and you like realize so quickly, like, okay, if this person was in sales, they haven't been in sales in like 20 years. And they're like teaching you tactics that worked in like the mid 90s before the internet was around, right?
Or electricity.
And it's just so
even.
dated. And I think that, we're not going to talk about Emmanuel's time, but
They're so bad right now that the car salespeople are like, I literally listen to like, all right, so my lease.
I want to go with you buy your new car.
So it drives me nuts. I'm actually, so you'd be surprised, I'm actually a really soft salesperson. Like, I'm easy to sell because I want something and I don't have the time.
But hold on a second. Yeah. They're not selling you. You knew exactly what you wanted.
I know the product, but I don't have the time to go back and forth and sit there.
So anybody
for 8
that's
hours.
selling Emmanuel anything, be that person. He has no time. Say you're going to take your time with him and he will say yes.
I'm sure I paid top dollar for lots of different things, but you know what? It is what it is.
Time is money, honey.
My time is money. So speaking of time, Adam, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're the best.
It was a long haul to get here.
Yeah, I'm glad you can make it in time.
So I think we started filming at 4:00, and by the way, I told Adam, like, hey, would you like to come on our podcast? It was 3:57 p.m.
Yep.
So
that's exactly how it happened.
Yes, but hey, that's how we solve problems around here on the spot. So thank you so much for having us, for coming and being a part of the show.
Absolutely.
You're a valued team member and great friend, and that's it.
Loved having you, bud.
I appreciate both of you so much. Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Okay, that's enough whining for one day. We are so happy that you could join us today on Stop Whining About Real Estate. So please, not only listen, but subscribe, follow us, download, share, and if you're feeling it, give us a 5-star review. Hey, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email stopwhining@choicemortgage.com. Thanks so much.